This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight Now, we bring you a discussion on President's Address to the Nation on the eve of Independence Day 2022. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR correspondent.
Mr. Iyer, what according to you is the chief takeaway from President Draupadi Murmu's address to the nation on this landmark, joyous occasion?
Sonuji, this was the first address by our new Rashtrapati ji, and she has touched upon all aspects of the governance path that we are seeing today. And there is a message of hope, there is a message of confidence. How this nation, which is today, celebrating 75 years of independence, is looking at the next 25 years. By the time it completes 100 years of independence, that is in 2047, it would have achieved a lot of things which are already on the pipeline. That is the big message coming from the President on the eve of the Independence Day. In particular, she has spoken about various things that today govern our schemes for the poor. Particularly, she spoke about the Prime Minister's Awas Yojana. She spoke about Jal Jeevan Mission. She spoke about Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. She spoke about other, particularly Guti Shakti Yojana. All these things are aimed at two big things. One is providing the basic necessities of our people so that there is nobody in this country who will not have a roof above his or her head, who will not have clean drinking water, who will not have the basic sanitation facilities, who will not have a basic livelihood source of income. These are the various things that the Prime Minister Modi's government has been implementing from 2014 with great gusto, with great speed and great enthusiasm. The President feels that all these things are aimed at ensuring what our forefathers like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had thought, that our people will have all that is necessary for their life. At the same time, we'll see avenues for their individual development, for their growth and achievement.
She praised the Indian startup ecosystem and lauded the government's and policymakers' efforts in the last few years, wherein unprecedented progress was made in physical and digital infrastructure, especially the PM Guti Shakti initiative. You feel that growth becoming more inclusive and reduction in regional disparities, this is very significant?
Absolutely, because what the President has noted in our address today is, look, the kind of schemes that are under implementation. What is the big objective of these schemes? The big objective of the schemes is whether it is economic reforms, whether it is various policy initiatives, whether it is social welfare programs. The whole idea is the quality of life, quality of living of our people should change. That is the driving philosophy of the government, which she has totally endorsed today in her address. Because in particular, she says, we have to create wealth. We have to create wealth for our people. And that can be only created by all of us joining hands, whether it is entrepreneurs, whether it is business people, whether it is the trade, whether it is industry or common citizens. All of us are contributing towards what the Prime Minister has often said, our prayas for the welfare of all. That is a guiding principle. That is why she says we have achieved so many things despite a lot of difficulties. She particularly mentioned about the pandemic, the kind of havoc wrought by the pandemic in this country and how we overcame them, and particularly how our medical professionals and how our scientists helped us launch one of the biggest immunization programs in the world, how we have covered so many people. This itself is an indication of our inherent strength to overcome crisis, inherent strength to overcome challenges.
She also talked about India's newfound confidence stemming from the spirit of its youth, farmers and women. And she made special mention of reducing gender equality in our country. Can you tell us how this is significant? Because women, after all, they make up nearly 50% of our population.
Sonuji, the President particularly mentioned how several glass ceilings are being broken. The point that today, one of the biggest challenges before us to bridge this gender inequality. So what we are seeing is women are coming to occupy position, accept responsibilities, take up challenges which were not possible hitherto. Now new avenues are being opened up for them. They are being provided extra facilities and all avenues for their empowerment is being undertaken. That is why she mentioned, particularly today we have about particularly elected panchayats in several lakh panchayats today have elected women leaders. And our own elevation from being a very, very ordinary person from a very poor area in Odisha to occupy the highest office, that is President of India, also symbolizes the struggle and achievement of those people belonging to such sections. In particular, she referred to, how we have been observing Janajatiya Gaurav Divas every year, in the month of November, which the government started last year. She mentioned that there are so many unsung heroes, particularly belonging to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and the downtrodden, and how their achievements, their struggles are being brought to limelight. Similarly, our women are now being encouraged to break those glass ceilings. They could see those positions, but could never think that they can occupy it one day. And so the government schemes and policy initiatives are encouraging women to break those barriers. And it's a long process, but a process that is being done with a lot of determination. So by the time when we see India completes 100 years, we would have achieved a great milestone.
Mr. Iyer, she talked of democracy thriving in India and adoption of universal adult franchise right since the beginning of the Republic. Can you tell us about the challenges that 75-year-old country would have faced in this time, and how was this achieved against all odds?
You see, many countries, if you take, for instance, America or, there are other Western countries, they did not ensure equal voting rights for women, right from the time they framed their constitution. Whereas our constitutional forefathers decided right from 1947 we should ensure all are equal, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their caste, their creed or religion or whatever. That itself was the beginning. And you can imagine a country that was born in 1947 after the partition. That is why she also mentioned about the horrors and sufferings and the trauma suffered by the partition, which incidentally today we are observing as Remembrance Day of those periods, so that we remember history, so that we do not repeat that history. She mentioned that. Now coming to the point of, taking up challenges of providing equal voting rights to men and women and to all. If our forefathers decided, no matter what the condition of the country is at the beginning and the distance we have traveled, because there were many cynics who felt that India could not survive as an independent country. But what has been proven in the 70 years of journey is, despite our challenges, despite our economic disparities, despite our social issues and problems, we have traveled far. And today, not only are our women equal participants in our democracy, in our election democracy, in our electoral democracy, but they are also members of parliament. They are also members of the government. They lead in full participation and in taking care of our people in various walks of life, whether it is the field of medicine, whether it is field of science. And now the armed forces have also been opened up for women. We find several women in uniforms undertaking very difficult missions. Now today there is nobody without a bank account. Particularly the poor people are getting their subsidies directly through their bank account. Avoiding all those middlemen who used to, cheat them, misuse the money that was meant for them. So many things have happened, particularly the digital India. She mentioned about digital India, how that has transformed the lives of people by bringing about ease of living and two, directly empowering them. When you don't have to depend on any middleman, you don't have to depend on anybody to give you your money, not even on the post office or the postman to come and give you a money order. It directly comes into your account. That's a very big change we have seen.
And in this context, she also appealed for compassion for the downtrodden and upliftment of fellow citizens. So you think there was this call for the basic duties of fundamental duties of all citizens who are better privileged to help the underprivileged?
Sonuji, you have brought out a very important point in the President's address. The speaking about compassion. Compassion is the point that the President has emphasized right from her first acceptance speech that she made in the Central Hall of Parliament, after she was sworn in. That the driving idea or the driving energy, driving emotion behind our governance model, our care for the poor is compassion. Compassion will be what will be driving us. So whenever we undertake any schemes for the upliftment of poor or to wipe their tears, to remove their difficulties and in finding the basic necessities of life, whether it is shelter, clothing, water or even basic livelihood, the driving idea is compassion. We should feel for them. Because that is what Gandhiji also said. Before you do anything, think of the poorest of the poor. Antodaya in your mind. So the President says, look, this is what is driving us, this must drive. And coming to the other important aspect, which a point I think the Prime Minister has mentioned several times, it is very important, just as we enjoy our fundamental rights, it is important we realize that there are fundamental duties that every citizen has to do towards the country. That's a point which the President has also emphasized, saying, look, as we complete 75 years, it's important that as individual citizens, we also do our bit, we also make our contribution. Because that is how Sabka Prayas, everybody's efforts will go towards ensuring welfare all and building this great country which faces several challenges, but it is also filled with determination and confidence.
She spoke the fact that for 75 weeks, the nation has been commemorating the noble ideals that won us freedom through Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. What is the significance of this celebration in inspiring the youth of the country towards nation building?
Sonuji, 75 years is not a small achievement in a journey of a country like India. Now, with its vast geographical area, vast sections of the society, so many different people speaking so many different languages, and so many different practices and traditions all merged into one, what is called the Bharatiyata, the point that she mentioned. How Bharatiyata is what it signifies what is India, what is Bharat. So she says, look, what we have seen, the last few months, we have seen how citizens of this country, school children, college students, they are celebrating this great momentous occasion. For instance, Har Ghar Tiranga, this particular call given by the Prime Minister has seen national flags being hoisted over several homes across cities and towns and villages of India. And at the same time, today, many people have taken out yatras, with the national flag in hand, which goes to show you feel proud of your nation. That is why the President also spoke about what is called Nation First.
She said resolve to build Atmanirbhar Bharat and, as you said, Har Ghar Tiranga Abhiyan are all crucial to Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a festival which is a perfect tribute to the sacrifice and valor of our great freedom fighters. Do you see this spirit which you just talked about taking India to newer heights in the next 25 years, the Amrit Kal?
Definitely, Sonuji, when we are filled with that kind of spirit and that kind of determination, anything can be done. Mountains can be moved. I'm not talking in terms of an imaginative situation. We are already seeing it. So many things are happening, in this country which could not be thought of. Could you think about, say, 3-4 years ago that our people who are selling vegetables and fruits on the streets, there were so many cynics among us who felt in a country like India, these things will never work. But these are happening. These are changing. In a country like India, you can never ensure that the poor get their due. That through Jan Dhan Yojana, you can actually ensure those subsidies go to people whom it is meant, whether it is LPG cylinder subsidy or anything else. But that has changed. When you see that things, what was normally considered, it is not possible in India, yahan aisa hi chalega, things will go on like this. That attitude has been changed in the last 8 years. Now today you can no longer say that this cannot happen in India. All we can only say, this will also happen in India.
And she also talked about the challenges being faced by the environment and that how we must remain determined to preserve all that makes India beautiful. In this context, what role do you think India can play in the environmental landscape of the world?
Sonuji, you will recall our president when she made her first address in the Central of Parliament. She spoke about her own background as an Adivasi, grew up in the forest and water and sunshine and clean air. So she has always been saying, look, we need development, but we need sustainable development. And India is a beautiful country, as she mentioned in her speech. But our environment is facing challenges. But at the same time, we need development. Despite our huge challenges in the field of development, India was a signatory to the Paris Climate Conference. India was a great participant. India came with several suggestions and agreed to reduce carbon emissions by 2030. As the President noted, Mother Nature is parcel of our Indian culture. So at the same time, we must respect our tradition. Now today when you hear Europe is reeling under heat wave, water shortages in those countries where they never face such problem, it only goes to show and a reminder to us we need to move with nature. In that context, she also mentioned about the need for holistic healthcare like yoga and Ayurveda. That is why we need to appreciate these things also and try to incorporate them into our own lifestyle.
Freedom is the biggest treasure of a nation, and Independence Day not only salutes the sacrifice of our valiant freedom fighters, but also inspires each and every Indian to value this treasure and participate wholeheartedly in the process of nation building and take our country to glorious heights. Thank you so much, Mr. Iyer, for this insightful discussion and throwing light on various aspects which were covered by President Draupadi Murmu in her Independence Day Eve speech.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You were listening to a discussion on President's Address to the Nation on the Eve of Independence Day 2022. The participants were Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.